All right, so I've had a couple of days. Generally, when I bring you guys a recap after a fight, I do it immediately after. Call it a first reaction type thing. But, you know, with Anthony Smith, it's different. Our relationship's different. So I want to take a little bit of time and think about this. It was interesting. And here's what's going on in Anthony's life today. Okay, let me just describe this to you. And he thinks nobody understands. Nobody would get. You wouldn't get it. You wouldn't understand. But he's probably been telling his most loved one. He's being sweet to them, but he's at the same time, you know, you're not going to pull me out of this shell. How could you? You don't get it. All right. I do. Thinks he's got a secret. Thinks it's his problem. Thinks it's unique to him. And if he could just overcome this, he could just be mentally tough like these guys he reads about. Is there anybody that Anthony's ever read that's as tough as he is mentally? But he doesn't feel that way. And he could feel physically that he's still there, that he's still light, that he's still powerful, that he still makes weight, that he's still hungry, that he's still in shape, that he's still listening to his corner, that he still wants to win, that he can still overcome an obstacle like Walker said, why didn't he? And part of that match, Anthony was trying to get into the right headspace. He was even yelling at Walker. And this was a little bit tough as an outsider. Like, if I don't quite have the same as you saw, let me tell you what I saw or what I thought I saw. Anthony was saying to Walker something about, you insulted my family. And Walker just kept saying, huh? Kept saying, what? I don't believe that was a situation where Anthony was actually trying to call Walker out and get himself ready. I believe he was manufacturing that. I believe he was trying to say, you're somebody, you're this mythical figure. That's a common thing. Let me tell you an example. This is very heavy. I get that they aren't related. Hear me out anyway, because it's an example you'll remember. Dan Gable. Dan Gable was one of the great competitors. He actually changed and innovated sport. He is the one that made the world, all sports, not just combat, made the world see the effectiveness of weaponizing pace. So, one thing that Dan Gable would do is his sister was raped. Heavy stuff, they never caught the guy. So when Dan would go on the mat, he was extremely tenacious, very aggressive, real physical style. But he would imagine that guy across from him is the one that did it. And I bring you that heavy example because what Anthony was doing was pretty heavy too, accusing Walker of talking about his family. I don't think he meant it literally though. I think, it's my interpretation, is he was trying to get himself in a headspace of what would I do to a guy if the guy threatened my family. That's what I think I was seeing. Now, whether I have that right or it's the other and it's more literal and he did do it, either way, I'm correct in the notion of telling you that Anthony wasn't in the place mentally he felt he needed to be sharp, to want it, to be hungry, to overcome, to scramble out of positions. Anthony's been on the other side of this. What Anthony was doing, being in that ring physically, and the entire time searching and just hoping that that dog that he needs comes out. He was in this exact same spot in reverse. It was in Sweden, and it was against Alexander Gustafsson. Gustafsson was there physically. He was light on his feet. He was moving. He was in fantastic shape. He didn't want to be there. He was tired. It was too long. The training camps were too long. The travel was too much. The media was too big. He was ready for it to be over. And I only share that with you because that's just the voice that Anthony's battling with. He's searching for this dog that he knows is in him, and that dog needs to come out to win. He knows that. And he's had a lot of really good experiences, and life's going pretty well. And his family is beautiful, and they like him, and there's just not a whole lot of reasons to fight and be angry, and it's just the truth. And Anthony was coming up. He was coming up on the streets. He was having to deal with the police. He's got free time on his hands. He's at the park alone. He's doing some of these things, and I just bring to you, when life changes a little bit, you're searching for that that thing, and you never knew in the first place what made that thing come out and play. You never really knew. You just knew when it did, things were better from a competitive standpoint. So it's one of these interesting spots. Anthony says he's going to go back, sit down with the team, and think about retirement. I will support that either way. This is a man. This is a man who, when I met him, was a bum. And I don't mean he wasn't good. He was really good. He was a bum. He was like 14-6, 14-8. He was a bum. He would never get Dana White's attention. He hadn't gotten it. I don't mean he was 14-8 in the UFC. He'd never been in the big show. And was 14-8. You'll never get in at 14-8. He did, and I don't know how. It's one of the more incredible stories. He might have been more like 15-7, but I'm right there, guys. It was bad. He was bummed. Fight for $1,500 if he could get that. He wasn't a main eventer. I mean, I'm sharing these things, and I don't say it to put him down. He came from that. He fought for the world championship. He was a decision away from being the guy to stop Jon Jones. It's an incredible feat. There was people that looked at him and didn't think that he knew the sport. Now he works for ESPN explaining to the world the sport. I don't know if there has been a guy that our paths have crossed and that I've come through this journey with that is more of a fighter than Anthony Smith, not to mention more of a winner at fighting than Anthony Smith. And at some point, for whatever reason, eventually you fire your last bullet and that chamber goes dry and it's just not something you want to do. You guys know the name Brandon Slay? Brandon Slay is an Olympic hero. He's responsible for one of the biggest upsets in Olympic history, and moreover is the way that it came. He had to do it in the quarterfinals. Most of those big matches, those big upsets are for the gold medal match. He had to do it in the quarterfinals, stopping Chimaev. So Brandon wins the gold medal. I mean, off he goes in life, but he's only 28 years old. He's only 27 years old. He wasn't ready to move on yet. But what else do you do? All right, so he decides he's going to come back. And he's in the room. He's coming back. It's Olympic Training Center, right? It's the best guys, best coaches, best facilities. It's what he was used to. And at the end of practice, the coach calls out a drill. It's a conditioning drill, but it's just called catch the guy in front of you. The whole group is running. The coach yells, catch the guy in front of you. That means sprint. That's what that means. That means catch the guy in front of you, whoever that is. Catch him and pass him. Everybody in the room trying to do the same thing. And Brandon said he was doing that drill. He did practice, went through all the motions. He was sweaty. He was tired. It was a great workout. He was eating right. He was sleeping right. He told me this. He said it was time to catch the guy in front of you. And he had the energy to do it. He had the energy to catch the guy. But he didn't want to. He just didn't want to catch him. It was going to require an effort. It was going to require a heart. It was going to require a toughness. And he just didn't want to do it. And he knew in that moment, I need to stop the comeback. Because I cannot come back to what I was if I don't want to catch the guy in front of me. It was very relevant. He set that down one time. He set that down. Bet you, and he doesn't even remember telling me that, but I remember hearing it. I understood, and I'll just apply it to this moment. Physically, this is no problem for Anthony. Mentally, he was in search of something. And if you can't find it, you can't find it. It's not a negative thing. It's just a sign. There's other things for him to do in this life. Don't dread that. Go enjoy them.